story. Just go ahead. Just jump in about you were dating. How'd you meet, first of all?
He showed up at my doorstep. We started dating. We were both, I would think I was 19 and he was 18, so a long time ago. And yeah, he showed up at my doorstep, and the first thought I had when I opened the door was, wow, I'm gonna marry this guy.
How did he find your doorstep? Like
that's so we had mutual friends, and I invited them to come with us to go see the Opry lights, which is a big thing in Nashville. And they were like, oh yeah, can we invite a friend with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he's the one that ended up knocking on the door. So
that is so awesome.
I know.
So what did you think when you saw her?
Ooh.
Ooh la la.
Yeah.
And the rest is history, right?
Caught my eye,
Good sign.
and then I was hooked ever since. So I was
That's
that was
beautiful.
almost 6 years
6
ago.
years ago. Yeah.
6 years ago? And look, you look like you just met.
Yeah, they do.
So snuggly.
So you planned your wedding.
Yep, so our wedding was originally gonna be in June of 2022. But then after this war broke out, we were at church, the week of the war. So February 24th is when the wars broke out, so that week. And we went outside, and he looked at me and he said, I feel like we need to go. And I looked at him and I was like, I was just waiting for you to ask.
Wow.
Yeah, so we moved up our wedding to April, and we left 3 days later to go to Ukraine.
Amazing.
So what was your connection to Ukraine?
That is my family. So my aunt did missionary work there outside of college, and that's where she met her husband, my uncle Ruslan, and he is a Ukrainian. And in 2003, I believe, is whenever they got married, and they adopted 9 kids
Yeah.
out of an orphanage right after that. Okay, and that started their ministry, which is called Raising Hope Ukraine. And then that was fully established in 2013. And that's what they did. They adopted kids. They would raise them in a godly home, teach them about life and, how to manage everything. And then once that batch, I guess you could say, grew up and was able to leave the house and be adults, they would pray and ask the Lord, who do you need next? And then they would adopt more. But then whenever the war broke out, that turned into a new ministry purpose because one, they live on a border city. Two, they've already made immense connections over the 15 years that they've been, doing this ministry, and they were able to house refugees and act as like a transition from the people fleeing from the east and coming to the west. And so that is our connection with being able to get into Ukraine. We'd both been there before, actually, too.
Yeah, like 7 months after we started dating, we went to Ukraine together. Yeah.
So your family still lives there.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing because it's my understanding that the orphans, and it sounds like they adopted orphans, their plight in Ukraine is dim.
Yep.
Like most of the orphans in Ukraine don't live to be 30 years old.
Yeah. The system there is, it's cruel, I guess, is the best word to use because it's a lot different than here. They don't have our resources, and there's not funding supplied by, just nice donors who like to go and help and give a portion of their money that they make, and they don't get that. And so having an organization like my aunt and uncle's ministry has been a huge blessing to 21 lives.
Yeah.
So do they adopt babies or children, older children?
They want to keep siblings together, so they adopt groups of siblings. They don't care the age. But this last group that they had, the first group was a lot older, like teenagers, like 16, that age. But this group was a lot younger, like 4, 5, 6 years old. So they have 9 children right now, and then they're going to adopt 3 more.
Potential.
So in
potentially.
Moldova, if orphans are pushed out, I think it's 16 or 18, and then they end up can be trafficked.
Yeah.
A lot of them end up alcoholics or just being used and die early.
there's not enough jobs in Ukraine or in Moldova. Like, there's just not as many jobs as there is here. And so there's not as many opportunities for these kids. So his uncle actually has what is it?
It's a landscaping construction
like a company. And so he's able to hire at least the boys.
Wow, that's good.
And hire a lot of men from their city to help him. And so he's providing jobs as well as a home and all of that.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it is. It's amazing.
So when you went the first time, when you first started dating, did you just sightsee? What did you do?
We did a VBS there. And we also just helped with the organization and they do a lot of community work. They actually have a community center that's housing a lot of refugees right now. So we just worked with them, whatever they needed done. And that was the first trip.
Yeah, VBS is a big part of their ministry. They go
They wanna
city
reach
to
the
city,
kids.
and they hold VBS and try to get as many kids there as possible to, spread the gospel.
Wow.
And what is BBS?
A
Vacation Bible
Yeah,
School.
Vacation Bible School.
Okay.
So what happened when you went 3 days after you got married? What did you do and what did you see? And
Yeah, so in the States, I'm a nurse, so my heart was always very drawn to the medical side of things, and I just felt like a really big passion to make sure the front lines were getting the medical supplies that they needed. So we ended up, by the grace of God, He provided all of these things, but we brought like 16 bags of medical supplies from the States. Like, we got them donated in Nashville, and it was just incredible. Like, so many people just dropped off so much stuff. We didn't have to spend any money. We had to spend a lot of money getting them there because, have to get all this there. But God was so good. We didn't lose a single bag. Nobody gave us any hassle through customs.
That's a miracle.
It
It
was
sure is a miracle.
We didn't lose any bags. And so we started in Romania, and then you have to go through 3 different borders to get into Ukraine, because obviously there's no flights in Ukraine. And we have to sneak all of these medical supplies into Ukraine. They're very careful regulating what's coming in and out of Ukraine right now. So unfortunately, we did have to take a lot of these things and hide it in our clothing to be able to get it past the border, and so that we could get it to the frontline soldiers.
wow, they wouldn't even accept medical supplies?
No, because they don't know who you are. If you're not with we're with an organization, yes, but if we have to have like a special letter to be able to get it in, that letter takes time. We didn't have time. So, and later on, we were able to get the rest of the supplies in with a letter from the front line saying, we need this stuff and we need it now. But in the beginning, we didn't have that because we were in Romania, so we had to sneak it in.
Well, what would have happened if they would have found it in your luggage? Would they have confiscated it? Would you have gotten in trouble?
They would have confiscated it. As to what would happen to us, I don't know.
Thank the Lord we
Could
didn't have an
just
issue.
Maybe kicked us out. Could have said, you can't do this. We'll have to take this. You can keep going.
Yeah.
No idea it didn't happen.
Yeah.
They could have
So,
stopped
we,
shipping.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
it
God.
sounds like the KGB days when they used to have to sneak Bibles in,
Yeah.
The problem is the rest of the countries surrounding Ukraine, yes, they want to help the people, but then they don't want to get in trouble. So they want to kind of keep their hands out of the honey pot,
That's
so
the
to
big
say.
thing. They don't want Russia to find
They don't
out,
want-
and then Russia be,
To
upset with them and say that you're aiding them and you're on their side,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which could cause problems for them. So it made complete sense.
Yeah.
Who stayed that you met? I mean, did you just interact with them on a daily basis?
Yes.
What were their needs? What were their emotions?
Man, these people are the most kind and hopeful people you'll ever meet. And they're so brave. So we lived in a house with like 32 other people, at least. And it was a small house, like one bathroom. Yeah. It was insane. But
Even
Let's go back to the newlywed part of it here.
we slept on a cot on the floor.
That's a sacrifice.
Really
It
is,
was what
yeah.
God asked us to do. But I mean, if you're around those people, though, you just hear their stories, and they had everything taken
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
But they have no doubt in their mind that they're going to have their country. All they'll talk about is when our city is being rebuilt. I mean, we had these people that, again, everything taken away. And they were the kindest people. They gave us a cake for our 4th of July. Because they wanted to celebrate our Independence Day. And I was like, you guys have had everything taken away from you. And yet, you celebrate us. And they're so thankful.
So did they lose their homes?
So this couple actually, they lost every home in their neighborhood except for theirs. There was the only one left, was their home.
Was it because they were bombed?
The rest of the homes were bombed. They were in Kharkiv, and every other one was bombed.
So did their neighbors live, or how did they get out?
Most of the time, people evacuated from Kharkiv and Kiev and places like that. So they were most likely safe. But we also met a young man from Mariupol who got his niece and nephew out. He's 20 years old, guys. 20 years old, and got his niece and nephew out. Almost died multiple times trying to get these kids out. And he got them out. And this young man would be so focused on, are you doing okay? How are you? Like, so focused on you. And I'd be like, no, how are you? Like, are you okay? He's like, I'm fine. You know, it's just incredible.
His testimony will leave you with goosebumps for days.
Oh my gosh, and tears just streaming down your face. I
the
mean,
things that the 20-year-old had to see and decisions he had to make, fleeing and taking kids that aren't even his. I mean, there is niece and nephew, but
Yeah,
and
risking
leaving
his
his
life.
family too.
Yeah.
So
It's
did
just-
the
it's
kids'
wrenching.
parents stay?
They were already out of the country. At like a school or something, like the mom had to take a class for her job, and this was before the war broke out. And then the war broke out in Mariupol. I'm sure you've heard about it on the news. It's one of the places that was hit the hardest, and he was able to get out. But I mean, in order to get out, I mean, the Russians like tried to kill him because of a video on his phone. Like, there is no reason why that man is alive right now, other than God.
Yeah.
Truly,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Amazing.
So these 32 people in the house. Who fed them? Was there a big kitchen? Was there enough dishes?
Yeah, how did that work?
Jesus. Okay, that's the answer.
Big meals is nothing that my family isn't used to, with always
21
having
kids.
at least 9 kids. And then they always have their friends over, and then there's the church coming over or something. So every time my aunt makes something, even when she comes over to America,
Big pots.
it's ridiculous. Like it'll be like 5 people, and she makes a 17+ person dinner. And she just can't help it.
It's
It's just what she
insane.
does.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
So that's a normal life for them.
Yeah.
Is having
It's feeding
It's having
everybody.
an L table with you eat
like this.
You eat like this. Every meal is like this.
And
You can't-
everything, it's just,
Yep.
by the time we all get sat down, everything's cold. And like, we're just, that's what
That's
you do.
one thing they love. They love to eat together.
They do.
They don't leave anybody out.
We all have to come in. We have to go find everyone from the gardens, and I mean, they have a larger plantation kind of home where they have fruit and stuff like that. So we have to go gather all the kids. You know, the youngest one is 7. And I have to go find them and then bring them to the table, and then we try to eat.
Very, very family oriented.
It is. It's wonderful.
So when I was in Moldova, you know, the peppers, like bell peppers, tasted a lot more flavorful. Now I will say I had a grape with a big seed. Like when I was a kid, you probably know about that. But the seedless grapes are awesome.
Yeah.
You can just eat them and don't have to fight
The
with that
fruit
seed.
there is so good.
But the food, just the vegetables were like I remember as a kid. So do you see that difference?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We would go.
100%.
Yeah, we would go out, and they eat everything in season. So we had strawberry season. We all spend like most of the day picking strawberries. So good. Even like the little white ones. So good. So sweet. And then malina, which is raspberry. It's the Ukrainian word for raspberry. Oh my gosh. So good. Love it.
We got all the food, so they, like she said, they eat in season.
Yeah.
And whenever you go to the grocery store and buy an out-of-season fruit, you can actually taste the herbicides and pesticides.
Yeah, you can
and stuff,
taste the
'cause
difference.
It's out of season,
And they
so
won't
they're
eat
growing it
anything out of
artificially.
season. Yeah.
But yeah, the food's way better. Wow. Can't deny that.
That's
Yeah, the
amazing.
veggies and
Yeah.
fruits. I agree with you.
Yeah. So how long were you there?
This time that we were there for about 3 months. So.
Wow. And with one bathroom?
We moved a lot. We never really stayed in one place for more than a week. So we lived
Okay.
out in a backpack most of the time. So we were back and forth from Romania because that's where the supplies are. We could buy lots of materials for the soldiers. And then we would go to the most western border of Ukraine and then go inward into Ukraine. And we did a lecture, a medical lecture to educate soldiers and citizens about first aid, American first aid things, because they're a little bit behind us, and able to demonstrate a lot of first aid stuff that we use here. So that was a little bit, we kind of traveled a bunch of different cities in Ukraine to do that.
So before you guys got married and met, were you both in a type of missionary work? Because that's a big quantum leap to get married and go.
I was a nurse, so I just worked in a hospital just like any other nurse, and but I always had a passion for people in general, and
I had a garage door company.
yeah, so no, we just kind of.
Did you have a desire for mission work, or just all of a sudden you realized, I want to go to Ukraine?
Right. Or was it because you're, of course, it's your people?
The family tie had a strong pull for that. I've always been, recently, I found faith in a stronger viewpoint, and then I've been asking God a lot, what do you need of me? What do you need me to do? And then, like she said in church that morning, that was like a big, I need you to do this. And so that was the huge pull, was the family, and I felt like he was telling me, this is what you need to do, go do this. And so, yeah, that I all seeking for that, and then I guess finally having a door open, or my ears were tuned in, right?
Well, if you seek him, you'll find him.
Yeah.
And so you spent 3 months in Ukraine, and so you haven't been back in the States that long.
No.
So what was that transition back to civilization? Not civilization, but
I mean, in this sense, it would be
culture.
because
It had to be a big culture shock, and you were in a war-torn country, ministering to people, and come back here. So what was that transition like?
Yeah. I think it's been interesting to find our bearings again, to be able to figure out what God wants of us in this next stage, because our plan was to go back. But we're definitely seeing God open doors like this one, to be able to speak about Ukraine and to raise awareness, because, you know, America's forgetting what's happening. The people that are dying, the children that are dying, the women that are dying.
Still presently.
The young boys. I mean, these are boys that are dying, you know, and I know people are dying all over the world, but God's really opened a way for us to speak about those people.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. To see more like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and get all the latest content from TCT Ministries. We'd love to pray alongside you for God's blessings in your life, so you can email your prayer requests to prayer@tct.tv or click the link below and submit your request at tct.tv. God bless you and thank you for watching.